Everyone, and welcome to our March. I have to remember what month it is because I'm in Denver, Colorado, and we've had so much snow and winter here that sometimes I think it's the middle of winter, but actually we're just like 2 days away from the beginning of spring. So welcome to our March workshop, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm Dr. Ray Lindley. I'm the Executive Director for Array Global, and we are so thrilled that we're able to present these monthly workshops to you. And we're happy to have some special guests today to give the presentation. But however, before that, Dr. Jake, who's our Associate Executive Director, has a few announcements, and then we'll get into the workshop.
Thanks, Dr. Ray. I want to start off by just welcoming everyone and talking to them about some great opportunities to have your students participate in. If you go into our website and you go to our academic competitions, right now we have a really exciting competition going on. This is probably one of the most popular ones out there. It's our science fair, the online Stella Science Fair. And we get these great videos from all over the world. They're 2 minutes long. And any of your students from kindergarten all the way to grade 12 can participate. Just click on this entry form, come here, and you can they can upload their information, their email, their name, which their grade group is, their school, and then they upload their video right here. Or they can put a link right here. Either way, whatever works for you. If they want to put it up on YouTube first or put a Google Drive link. But we're always really impressed with the work that takes place from these students. Another thing that we wanted to recognize and talk about was schools, member schools of Array Global. You can, let me zoom in a little bit. You can nominate a teacher and administrator of the year. This goes until April 1st, so we don't have very much more time left. But again, these are only schools that are part of Array Global that can participate in these activities. For the teacher of the year, we recognize the student of the month. We recognize an institution of the month, but again, they have to be schools that are part of Array Global. If you're not part of Array Global, another thing besides our science fair that you can participate in is the Me and My Service Community Award. We're recognizing students who do 20 hours of community service. And what a great opportunity to give back to your community, but also to put this on your students' resume if they start applying to other schools or as they apply to colleges, universities. But a great way to give back. So we encourage everyone to get onto our website, look at our services that we provide, and I think most importantly, look at our accreditation process and the services that we provide there, because we are focused on improvement. We're focused on relationship building with you and your schools, and helping you out as you continue to provide quality education for all of your students. So welcome, and please let us know if you have any questions. One more thing, the post-workshop survey is not posted until the very end, not for another hour. So make sure that you're aware of that. You can post questions and comments throughout the chat box. And as we see a regular theme that's coming up, Dr. Ray and I may interrupt the presenters to ask those questions of them. So again, welcome from all over the world as we see people here on Facebook and on our Zoom account here. So back to you, Dr. Ray.
Oh, one question, Dr. Jake. You want to give a teaser for the April workshop, which will be April 15, just a teaser?
Absolutely. So next month, we have an organization called Global Ed. And this organization provides quality professional development for teachers throughout the world. But I think that the neatest thing that many of you might be interested in is that you can get a license in the United States. You can be licensed through the state of Florida, through another state, and be able to use that licensure as you go to other schools throughout the world and just show that you are improving. But the biggest part, I think, Dr. Ray, is that we're going to be able to talk about the importance of professional development and the quality professional development that you can be a part of with this organization. So stay tuned and make sure that you attend next month. If you've already signed up for this workshop, for workshops, you'll be getting our regular emails. So you'll have that same link. It's the same link every single year for Zoom. So it'll be an exciting time. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next month at this same time, the third Saturday.
Great. And just one quick announcement also, I will be in Saudi Arabia in Riyadh I get there on the 24th. I'll be there for a few days. If any of you would like to chat with me while I'm there, just email me or let me know, and we'll see if we can work it out. I have a very tight schedule, but I'd be glad if we can work some time out.
What about Armenia, Dr.
Well,
Ray?
that was
Yeah.
my next statement. And then Dr. Jake and I will be in Armenia then the following week, and we're doing our first school accreditation in Armenia. We're excited to go to that country. So again, if you're from Armenia and you'd like to talk with either of us, please let us know. Now, we've already taken more time from our presenters. There's so much good is going on. And I'm so happy to introduce Ron Seagal and Dave Hendry from an organization that we accredit called True Curriculum. And I'm confident that within this next hour, they will be able to give you some information about their organization. But the main purpose for this workshop today is to talk about peer tutoring, and their actual emphasis is turning students into assistant teachers. Think about that, getting your students to help. So Rana and Dave, thank you for being with us today. And I commend to you a wonderful group of people. We see many, many names we recognize who are here on a regular basis. So welcome, and the show is yours.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Lindley. I'm going to just briefly introduce myself. Again, my name is Ron Seagal. I'm a long-term teacher. Started teaching over 35 years ago, and I've taught in a lot of different settings, public school, private school, homeschool, and done a lot of tutoring, including community tutoring programs, free tutoring programs, etc. All combined, easily over 30,000 hours of delivery. It's obviously a passion of mine, and I've really been focusing for a while now on peer tutoring, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but just to be sure, peer-to-peer just means normally kids of the same age, maybe middle school kids helping middle school kids, or even a high school kid helping middle school, or college helping high school, or somewhere along in that way. There's a lot of research. There's a tremendous amount of benefits from it, so we'll be getting into that. Before I jump in, though, I wanted to take just a minute to open the chat to anybody saying what they might want to get out of this workshop. And then I'm going to have Dr. Lindley maybe see what the basic theme might be, just so I can get to know you a little bit. I like to keep it interactive as a teacher, even while we're on Zoom. It can be a little difficult. But go ahead. If you have a particular thought or question, or what you see is what might be valuable about peer tutoring, what you might want to learn from this workshop, or any thoughts you might have, go ahead and throw it in the chat. And then I'm just going to see, get to know you a little bit and how I can support you.
Well, so far we don't have any questions, Ron. If it's all right with you, we'll go ahead, and then we'll just
Okay.
we'll just interrupt you. How to make how to motivate students to be leaders,
and how to make them into assistant teachers. Behavior management. Okay, good. I see that. Thank you. Good. Thanks for your input. And by the way, learner agency, thank you. I see these popping up. As Dr. Lindley said, he may interrupt me, so feel free. I want to keep it interactive. If you have questions along the way, I want you to feel very free to send something in the chat. They'll be monitoring it, and I'm very open to being "quote unquote" interrupted, because I want to be able to interact with you. I'm going to introduce Dave Hendry. He's going to start off and taking ownership. Thank you. Yeah, very good comments, by the way. Thank you, guys. Yeah, huge. Dave Hendry is a nationally recognized expert on achieving learning engagement through instructional design. He's worked for decades to provide learning experiences to students in a range of settings. He produced educational documentaries, Good Morning, Miss Tolliver, the Eddie Files. These were made him a two-time winner of the George Foster Peabody Award. He's won the Educational Press Association's Award for Curriculum Resources. He's directed development activities for 4 National Science Foundation projects, U.S. National Science Foundation. He's also was a principal investigator for the 2 U.S. Department of Education professional development projects. He created the National Math Trail. He also served for a number of years as Vice President for Curriculum at Age of Learning, which is a US-based ed tech company, and he guided their curriculum development for abcmouse.com's Early Learning Academy. That online platform for young children earned the Children's Technology Review Editor's Choice Award, Teacher's Choice Award, Parents' Choice Award, National Parenting Publications Gold Award. And he's also co-inventor on about 7 Age of Learning educational technology patents. So he really is a powerhouse. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and he's going to set the context for this presentation.
Terrific. Thank you, Ron. And I would also like to thank all of you for being here. It's a great pleasure and a privilege for me to have this opportunity to talk to you. I'm just going to take a few minutes to set the stage for what Ron's going to show you. And I'm going to start by talking about someone that my guess is you've heard of. His name is Benjamin Bloom. I'll share a few slides as I do this. All right, so I'm hoping maybe I can get a thumbs up that you see a slide deck that says True Curriculum. Okay, terrific. Benjamin Bloom, as many of you may know, is an education researcher who, along with a committee of other researchers at the University of Chicago, developed what came to be called Bloom's taxonomy. Most educators have heard about taxonomy. It's a categorization of, it's actually used as a categorization of types of learning experiences and curriculum design these days, but originally it was not developed to be that. Originally it was developed to simply be a categorization of assessment questions, which a lot of people don't know, but they did such a good job of categorizing the kinds of assessment that those categories have now come to be used for designing curriculum activities and evaluating them. The current version of the taxonomy, it was updated in the early 2000s, is learning to remember things, learning to understand things, learning to apply what you're learning to analyze, learning to evaluate, learning to create. And this is a tool I use every day in curriculum design and is commonly known. It's interesting that a lot of people don't know this, but the committee that developed this taxonomy actually developed 3 taxonomies, not just one. We only ever hear about what was called Bloom's taxonomy, but this taxonomy they described as being in the cognitive domain or the thinking domain. It's a taxonomy about different ways to think about things. The other 2 taxonomies are interesting, and I won't take a lot of time now, but if you ever have a few spare minutes, you might want to look those up. In any case, the work that Bloom did here occurred in the 50s, very early in his research career. In the 60s, he began researching a methodology for individualized learning to produce mastery. Mastery means that students fully learn and understand the most important parts of the concepts and skills that they're addressing in a particular curriculum before they move on to the next one. What you see on the slide here is sort of a mechanical methodology, a schematic of mastery. These are available on the web, and we'll share this deck with you afterwards if you're interested. And it was basically a process that Bloom researched and developed by which students could come to master what they were learning, so that you didn't have students learning maybe 50 or 60 or 70% of the important material and then going on to another subject and going on to another subject and not really fully understanding what they had already learned. This mastery work of Bloom's led him into a new line of research, which was essentially, how can we educate all students so that they achieve mastery? Because he found that mastery was very powerful for kids and led them to much greater success in their education. As he conducted this research, he turned out something that was very effective. He actually found a way to lead nearly all students in a classroom to mastery. And it would take students from what the average result was at the time in classrooms, which is most kids learn something around 70% of what they're taught. You know, some learn more and some learn less, but the average is 70, and most of them around 60, 70. And Bloom's method took students up to 90%. So this was a huge result, obviously. And mathematically, the way this is described is using a measure called sigma. And sigma is basically the measure of the width of a curve like this. It's measure of half the width, really. And what Bloom had done had shown that he could shift the top of the curve by a distance of 2 sigmas. So you take the basic curve and you measure its width, take half of that width is sigma, and he shifted the top of the curve by 2 sigmas, which is a huge result educationally. If you've done much education research, you know that it's very hard to move the needle with any kind of educational program, really. And a quarter of a sigma or a half a sigma is considered to be a phenomenal result. 2 sigma was unbelievable. So this came to be called the 2 sigma shift. And that's why I'm kind of introducing this nomenclature to you, because 2 sigma is a term that you may have heard of. And this shift is called a 2 sigma shift. So it's a great result, and we all want to get that result. But there's one catch, which is the method that he actually found that did this was one-on-one tutoring. So mastery by expert tutors in subjects would bring almost all students up to 90% from 70%. And that's wonderful, but that's not practical for nearly all schools and classrooms. We don't have the opportunity or the facility to offer all of our students master tutors. And Bloom recognized that he had created a problem. In fact, in 1984, he published a paper called The 2 Sigma Problem: The Search for Methods of Group Instruction that are as effective as one-on-one tutoring. The question that he raised is, how can we have a classroom of students where we're dealing with 20, 30, 40, 50 students at a time and achieve results that are as this dramatic? And he posed that problem in 1985, and there was no solution at that time. And there hasn't been a solution until quite recently. We're seeing some evidence of methodologies and applications that might be able to get us there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. This research of Bloom's and other people, but Bloom's really kind of started this ball rolling, led to a massive shift of education that we've seen over the last 50 years. And I'm going to call that an education revolution. And that began with the definition of very precise standards of proficiency that students were achieved. This was not what was generally occurring in schools in the 50s and 60s or even in the 70s, except in rare cases. But in the 80s and 90s, you started to see clear standards stated and developed in mathematics, I think, to begin with. And now every subject really has these standards. And also characterized by the rise of what we call learner-centered education. This has various names, but I'm going to call it learner-centered education for the purposes of this call. And these 2 things have really transformed what we now expect teachers to be able to do. Because we now expect teachers to somehow be able to meet students' individual learning needs in a way that helps every student to achieve proficiency. This is a huge change from what teachers were expected to do even 20 or 30 years ago. But learner-centered education expects you to center your program around each learner and help each learner to achieve proficiency. That's obviously a challenge. I think we would all agree that it would be great if schools and teachers could do this. But I've always believed, and I know Ron believes this too, that essentially what we're doing is we're expecting teachers to solve the 2 sigma problem in their own classrooms somehow or another. And if we are going to expect teachers to do that, we need to give them new and better tools and resources to accomplish it. We're not going to be able to use the methods and the organizational structure and the tools that were available to teachers in the 1960s and 70s to solve a problem that we are giving them here in the 21st century. We're going to talk about some of those tools and methods, and I'm going to summarize what I guess I have learned in 50 years of education about trying to deal with making education more individual for children. It seems to me that effective education has 4 components. Obviously, it has to have a student, and there should be a teacher. It's quite possible for students to learn independently, but when we're trying to take kids through the quantity of material that we hope that they will learn or expect them to learn at the rate that we want them to learn, And there are so many other things that the teacher brings to the table. I personally believe teachers are absolutely essential for achieving effective education for children, even in this age of technology. There is a new tool that's becoming available now, which is artificial intelligence-driven, personalized, and adaptive technology. That is to say, computer software and applications that engage students at a personalized level and assess what they need to know as individuals and present that to them. I know about this because I'm working with one of the major companies in the US that's developing that kind of technology. It can be hugely effective in a lot of ways, but I've always believed, and I still believe, that there is simply no substitute for a tutor, for one-on-one support, an individual support for kids, and that if we do not add that to the mix, it doesn't matter how brilliant or successful or effective this technology may be with individual students, they're still going to need that one-on-one support. Now, of course, it'd be wonderful if every student that we teach could have Bloom's master tutor to tutor them in their subject, but that's not in the cards. That's not what's going to happen. And if we're not careful, what is going to happen is that the only students who get that kind of one-on-one tutoring are the ones whose families can afford it. If we allow that to happen, we're going to end up exacerbating the achievement gap, making the gap between affluent families and non-affluent families worse, which would be exactly opposite to what Bloom envisioned. Bloom envisioned a program that helped every student achieve mastery. If we don't find a way to help every student have some sort of one-on-one support, we're going to end up making the education gap worse than it is. So what Ron's going to show you is not the complete solution to this problem, but it's a big part of the solution. It could be a big part of the solution. And it's got beneficial aspects that go way beyond the help for the students. And he'll tell you about those as well. I hope you're excited about it, as I am, which is why I'm involved with the company. And I'm going to turn this back over to Ron, and thank you for your attention.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. So I'm just going to make sure everybody sees my screen. Community tutoring experience. Fantastic. So first I'm going to say, yeah, I think some of you might be thinking, and correctly, well, it's impossible just to give everybody one-on-one tutoring. And I agree, it is. One thing that I've done as a teacher almost in self-defense, when you have a large class and you want to give them individual attention, even if you only have 20 students, in an hour, if you took 60 minutes and divided by 20, you only have 3 minutes for each student, if you think of it that way. But truthfully, it's less because there's time for prep and cleaning up and so forth. So how do you really get that individual attention? And then I'm going to take a question. Somebody raise their hand in just 10 seconds here. So one of the things that I did as a teacher, like, for example, when I was teaching math, even elementary school kids, by the way, even very young kids, I'd have my class, I would teach a short lesson, maybe 5 minutes, 7 minutes, make sure it was very engaging. Everybody got examples, they understood it. And then I would give an assignment and I would break my students into partnerships, or possibly 3 kids, a small team. And they would do the assignment as a partnership or as a team. Now what I would do is I would, like I said, I would teach to the whole group, give them now an assignment based on that, let them work. And as now I would go around, I'd be working with the teams. And if a team, let's say it was, I'm just going to say, let's say it was 10 problems. If one team group got the 10 problems done, I saw they did all the work correctly, they fully understood it, and some other people weren't quite yet done, I would put them on an adaptive program, sort of the likes of which Dave was describing, a math program that they could do online, that they could work on their own. And then I would go to the next group and work with them. And then another team would complete the assignment. Good, you can go on work on the online math tool. Then I would go to another, and everybody in that way, those who got done quickly could progress. Those who needed more time could take more time. And then everybody was done the assignment. Now I would go back, if there's time in the class, and teach the next lesson. Then it would be, okay, have them do it in pairs. This is incredibly simple, right, as a process. but it would just be teach, partner the kids up. They do it. When they're done, when they're all get done, have something for the kids to do who get done early that's productive and meaningful. When they all get done, teach the next lesson. That way it was my time in front of everybody in full of the whole group was greatly reduced. When you, particularly with elementary school kids, if you're an elementary school teacher, to talk for a long time in front of them where they're just receiving is not necessarily very effective. So what happened? The kids were a lot more engaged. They come to life when they're working together. Oh, no, do the problem this way, do the problem that way. They're alive, they're engaged, because I know some of you were talking about motivating kids. Well, one way to motivate them is just let them teach each other. You give them a little agency by just that fact alone. And what I would also be doing, though, over the course of the school year is making them into better and better partners. How to work with the other, how not to just tell the answer, how to be respectful, how to make sure it's not just you doing the talking, both. And over time, and sometimes I would have kids the next year too, these kids would grow and grow and grow as collaborative learners. And you'd be, you'd be surprised at how well they can do this. But it made my teaching job 100 times easier. Now, somebody did raise their hand, Dr. Lindley. Do you want to see if they have a specific question?
Sure, go ahead. I don't have the screen because you're.
I think they took their hand down, but there's a lot of good comments about this too, about the use of technology, about social constructivism. Yeah, so there's just a lot of scaffolding. And I think talking a lot about what you're getting into about how to effectively organize that, because you've talked a lot about the good effects of that too. It's, I think this is good information. A lot of comments on our Facebook page too.
Great, fantastic. And feel free to send questions. And again, I want to be interactive with you. And so I used it as a teacher. So I just want to make sure this is not for me at all theoretical. This is like something that I use very practically to help myself. And again, I can't stress how much my kids loved the fact they couldn't wait to come to math class. And part of it was because they had that agency, they were engaged. And let me tell you, their learning was great. They did well on tests. They scored well on academic tests and so forth. Okay, so I took this to the community as well. This is a picture on the screen. I'm in the red shirt on the left and the right, where I would go in a community center with a free tutoring program. I worked with a local police station that would sometimes bring their kids that they were working with to get free tutoring. And in doing this, I did the same thing, where I invited local high school students to come in, get some training and help. And this, I'm just telling you my journey, although peer tutoring is hundreds of years old, obviously not something that I've developed in any way, shape, or form, but this is my journey and coming to see the power of it. A big turning point was in the 2018-2019 school year. Seeing the work I was doing in a community center, a school invited me to come out and help them. I am here with 3 seniors at a K-12 school in Compton, California, in the United States. This is not their school, this is at their graduation ceremony. Now, I was given these 3 volunteers that were seniors, 12th graders in high school at this school in Compton. And these kids were doing well and wanted to volunteer. Each one of these students, the counselor gave them 1 or 2 students who were not doing well and who needed support. So after school, once a week, I would meet with these 3 volunteers and I would give them an hour of tutor training. And then I would say, okay, here's an hour of tutor training. Now go help your students. And then I would come back next week. Here's another hour of tutor training. I'll see you next week. Go help your students. And by the way, I did not do a full training for many months and then say you can start tutoring. I literally had them start immediately. I gave them a 1-hour lesson and said, go help. I gave them the purpose that even though they may not be perfect at the beginning, their purpose was to help another person. And I instilled that in them, that their job was to make another person learn. And then, of course, as they learned more week by week, it got easier for them and better. But I had them also learn by doing. So the teaching that I was doing was blended with them actually doing it. So when we were talking about things, they could see it in real life. So by the end of the school year, these 3 students combined had delivered 600 hours of free tutoring right on the school campus. And this again struck home to me, the power. I had just worked with 3 kids and suddenly we had 600 hours of tutoring. The teachers were impressed by these students. They would see them in the middle of class come up to one of their students and say, oh, I noticed you missed something. They noticed their responsibility coming up. And the students, of course, had somebody helping them who they could relate to, because often kids can have an easier time connecting with another kid. But what perhaps I love the most, and what is so fascinating and so wonderful, is that also the tutors got a lot out of this. I'm not sure if the tutors get the most out of this. Why is that? Well, from all this training, they're learning to be better students themselves. Research shows this too, that it'll reinforce their own learning, because when you have to teach something, you've got to learn it better. But also just knowing how to be a good teacher makes you a better student. So they were becoming better students. They were learning skills that maybe they could even be a paid tutor, that they could earn some income in the future. They were also getting community service credit, which they needed from their school anyway to graduate. And they were getting the joy of helping another. They were getting soft skills. They were learning social emotional skills, how to connect with people, how to see their emotions, how to understand when they don't understand. Lots of valuable communication and organization skills and responsibility. They were also having something that they can now put on their college application resume or job resume. So this was the ultimate in a win-win-win. Students win, tutors win, teachers are getting more help, schools are getting better results, and it costs virtually nothing. It's very cost effective. This is what I love about it. And yes, it's not a perfect system. Are these tutors going to be as good as a master teacher? They will definitely not be. But is it better than having none? Absolutely. Them contributing, and it gets the kids more involved and engaged, is far better than them not. And then this is why I refer to them as really teachers' assistants. What we did is then I decided, the school, by the way, the next year loved it so much they gave me 30 volunteers, that same school in Compton. So I was meeting weekly with 30 volunteers, give them a little training, go off and help your students, give them a little training, go off and help your students. We did that for 3, 4, 5 months or whatever until COVID hit. But it was rolling really well. And already I was starting to realize that if I wanted this to be more accessible to other people, I need to create a platform just so that the tutor training that I was doing could be accessible digitally, keeping records of your sessions, seeing who's partnered with who and so forth. So we put together, I had somebody else because I'm not the technology guy, I'm the teacher, but we put together a simple app prototype. And the school on the left is a private school in California, a nice private school. I had 10 volunteers work with a school on the right, which is an public elementary school in Inglewood, California. And, it was just fascinating. These kids had never met each other, but yet it was very successful, again, both for the tutors and the students. And we make sure that there's parental consent and take certain actions to make sure it's a safe experience as well. We did a couple of schools in India who used this within their own schools. We've also had some, in other words, the tutors helped kids in the same school. We've also had situations where a tutor from one school helps in another school, as you saw. I'm going to show you a success video from this original prototype. Very simple, not honestly very sophisticated. And somebody give me a thumbs up when you can hear sound.
My name is Jamesa Lewis Adams. My students know me as Miss LA, and I'm the Director of Service Learning for the Upper School at Brentwood School. Service learning is a form of experiential education that supports deep learning. Students apply classroom knowledge in practical settings. It also provides students with opportunities to develop civic engagement skills. By working with community members, students can enhance their group, organizational, and interpersonal skills. As a service learning director, my goals and interests are to increase intellectual development. I think it's very important for young people to know how to problem solve, refine basic skills such as communication, prioritize moral and ethical development such as compassion, and bring awareness to social and civic responsibility. Volunteer tutoring does something magical for our community. One, because it works. Not only do we like to partner with organizations like True Curriculum, we also have a few internal peer tutoring programs that have really shown great success and impact amongst our students' academic goals.
I'm Patrick Winograd. I'm a student at Brentwood School and I'm a student tutor. Working with Shayla was great. I mean, she's energetic, she's fun, and we kind of got into a good flow in the first few lessons and just kind of continued it on from there. Before I started tutoring, I felt a little bit nervous, but not too bad, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't mess anything up and I was doing well to tutor Shayla.
My name is Shayla Bodie. Some animals are experts at surviving because they are expert spinners. Name 2 reasons a llama might choose to spit. If it feels threatened or annoyed, or if it's trying to steal food. Patrick helped me with math and reading. I like working with Patrick because he's a great tutor and he helped me throughout the school year. What I got from the tutoring is to go back into the text and find answers for questions. At the beginning of the year, my reading level wasn't that good. I was at a 3rd grade level and I'm at a 4th now.
My name is Jasmine. I'm Shayla's mom, and Shayla is part of the tutoring program. I was actually pretty excited about her receiving tutoring from a high school student because I feel like kids sometimes relate more to kids than they do their parents, and they can get more done. Shayla's reading, she improved a whole reading level in school. She was more focused, more excited about going to school, and very helpful, like even more helpful around the house. This program is very important. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, it's really a village and it's teamwork. So it definitely helped a lot for her, and I know it'll impact her future in a good, positive way.
I think the number one thing that I got was I feel like it felt rewarding to know that I could help someone learn better. She was improving in the subjects that I was helping her tutor in, so I felt good about that, knowing that I was really making a difference on a young person's life.
If you're looking for a flexible program that fits your individual, family, and community needs, True Curriculum is the partner for you. Not only do they have forward-thinking model, the setup is simple, and both tutors and tutees have shared nothing but positive feedback.
If I were to give a message to other students and other community tutors, I would just say volunteer tutoring can help with the community in a lot of different ways, because you're tutoring one-on-one with another student. I think just interacting with people that are closer to your age is really helpful for that.
I would like to say thank you to Patrick and thank you to the program. It meant a lot to me and my daughter, and it helped her a lot.
Your microphone's off. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So can everyone see the next slide that says research has shown?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the main point of that is just to show a crude prototype, nothing super fancy at that point. And it's not, the kid wasn't a perfect tutor. Everything wasn't perfect, but gain was had, you know what I mean? We got gain. Now I just want to show, just to show the research behind it. Like I said, I'm not the one to come up with this idea whatsoever. This is one quote from the U.S. Department of Education, that research has shown that well-designed tutoring programs use volunteers and other non-professionals as tutors can be effective. As well, show you another one. Whoops. This is from India's national education policy from their federal government. Every year they put a comprehensive document. In 2020, this is just one little piece of that, where it says studies around the world show one-on-one peer tutoring to be extremely effective for learning, and not just for learning, but also for the tutor. And then this is just from a 2020 news article that says, in a recently circulated working paper examining dozens of experimental studies, a team of economists has found that tutoring offers the potential for transformative academic impacts. While teachers were shown to be the strongest instructors, even lightly trained volunteers or family members have the potential to help children realize important learning gains. So there's a lot of research, and this is something that, as an educator, and somebody's always, like all of us, wondering like, well, gosh, there's so many kids who are not getting access or enough education. What can we do? And this is something that I see is very powerful. The research backs it up. Let's figure out a way to implement this more and more. So it says trained, right? Lightly trained. So I want to now move into a little bit of some of the training concepts. Obviously, I don't have time. We have a pretty robust training program that we give our volunteers access to. But what are some of the tools, simple tools, like fast, that you could teach somebody quickly to be a better tutor, to be a better peer tutor? So one example that I might show to my kids is I'd show them a sentence like it says, how many bibliophiles are in this room? And they'd go, God, you know, they don't know, they get confused, blah, blah, blah. And they might not know the answer. And then we talk about what might the reaction be. Well, the reaction might be, well, I'm just not smart. I just don't know this, or I'll make something up, or I'll just copy it down and memorize it. But what I point out to the kids is that it's really just a sentence. And the sentence in this case has 7 words. And if you know the 7 words, it's like in math, if you add up 7 numbers, if you've got all the numbers right and you add them, you're going to get the answer. But if you're going to add 7 numbers and one of them is wrong, or you don't know what one of the numbers is, there's no way you can really get the answer fully. So instead of numbers, here we have words. And I just say, it's not that you're not smart or anything, or you have any issue or anything. You just might need to know what one of those words mean. And that's it. And it's about getting their curiosity up to go, oh, well, maybe I don't know bibliophile. So they ask a teacher, or they ask their parent, or they look in a dictionary, or they go online and they find out, what is bibliophile? Oh, it's a person who loves reading or collecting books. Biblio means kind of book. And now they know, oh, bibliophiles are just people who love books. So now I can understand the sentence. Well, that's not really complicated. And some of the kids at first might just go, oh, yeah, I know that. But I tell you, the more you do that with them and the more they understand, they become brilliant. Because education really, when you boil it right down, is just taking from I don't know to I do know. It's finding an unknown and turning it into a known. So that's a skill, and it's easy to say that, but a lot of kids just like they don't know, just go, well, I don't know. Well, no, what you got to do is you got to spot what you don't know and then turn it into the know. And you can't think, oh, I just don't know everything. I don't know math. I don't know this. No, there's a word, there's a thing there you need to research. So I'm teaching my kids to pinpoint that vocabulary they don't understand and clear it up. So before I go to that, I'm going to give you another example of this that I do with the kids, right? So I'm going to give you an impossible sentence, okay, that you just won't understand. And we're going to see if just by pinpointing vocabulary, we can do the magic of going from I don't get it to I do get it. So I give some crazy sentence like this: the geocentric view of the Ptolemaic system lasted nearly a millennium until the heliocentric view became understood and accepted. I say, you know, most of the time, if you're dealing with kids, how many people understand that? Nobody. Okay, now, normally they would just go, put the book down, right? And I'm going to teach them, what I'm teaching them is one of my key tools is, no, you're not going to put the book down. You're just going to pinpoint, what don't you know? So they might say, well, geocentric. Good, then we clarify. That's the next step. Identify, clarify. Geo means earth, like geology is the study of the earth's surface. Centric in the center. So the geocentric idea, I explained to the kids, was the idea that Earth was the center of everything and all the planets are going around the Earth, which we know isn't true, but back earlier in our human history, people believed that. They had a geocentric idea of things. So then they understand geocentric. Then I say, okay, any other vocabulary in there? Yes, heliocentric. Okay, good. Let's find out and clarify helio. Helio means sun. Heliocentric system means the sun is at the center. The planets are going around the sun. So we now have a heliocentric view of things, which has been verified. So now they know the difference between geocentric and heliocentric. And I continue this process. What else? Oh, Ptolemaic. All right. Well, Ptolemy was just an ancient Greek philosopher and mathematician, and he was a pretty smart guy. And he made this little model, and he had this geocentric idea. He had Earth in the middle, everything spinning around. Now, because he was actually smart, he was able to predict some things accurately, even though his model wasn't quite right. So people believed him because he did make some predictions correctly. The Ptolemaic system, I tell them, was just his model, as you can sort of see physically there, of how things, how the planets were arranged. And so that was his Ptolemaic system. And a millennium, is this the next thing they usually will ask, is a period of 1,000 years. So from 500 BC to 500 AD, or from right now 2023 to 3023 is a millennium. So I've run through this more quickly than I would with my students, but I give them they now understand, oh, the geocentric view, this idea that Earth was at the center, that was in this Ptolemaic system of this guy. Well, that view lasted almost 1,000 years. People were so convinced until we had this heliocentric view. Well, these kinds of lessons change people's mindsets into realizing even when they first don't understand, they can understand. So first, as the tutor, they learn that for themselves. I make them learn that for themselves. Then I'm going to learn that, teach them to now use that and apply that with others, so that when they say they don't understand, you help them to identify what it is. What is the vocabulary they don't get? You help them to pinpoint and clear things up. I'm going to show you another technique. I just want to see how we're doing on time, because I want to be respectful of time. But I'm going to show you one more simple technique, and which we're all familiar with, which is just the idea of visual learning, drawing or sketching things out. And I'm just going to show you, I'm literally in a different room. I'm going to be drawing with my hand or finger, so it's not going to look beautiful. But here's a problem. Susan has 4 times as many apples as Jasmine, and together they have 60 apples. So how many more apples does Susan have compared to Jasmine? Now, I train my kids to use visuals and sketching techniques. So here's one way I might train them. So I might show, put a J for Jasmine and an S for Susan. We're just already just getting it out there in front of us to look at it. And let's give Jasmine 1 box of apples. Now, we know that Susan has, we don't know how many apples are in that box. We're just going to say Jasmine's got a box of apples. But what we do know in the first sentence is that Susan has 4 times as many. So if Jasmine, I would ask my students, so if Jasmine has 1 box, how many boxes does Susan have to have? Well, let's say 4. She's got 4 times as many. So we draw 4 of those boxes for Susan. And again, we're getting now a visual. We're not doing any math, really, in a way, you could say, any math mechanics. We're just sketching. So now we can see, though, visually in front of us, that Susan has 4 times as many apples as Jasmine. We see it visually. And then we can also sort of make a visual of the fact, we could say, well, together they have 60. So I'm going to just show it that way. There's many ways. There's no one right way to visualize something. But now I can see Susan has 4 times as many apples as Jasmine. Together they have 60. But now what we can do is we can step back and say, there's 5 equal boxes, and all those boxes total together make 60 apples. So they start to get, well, if I take 60 and divide it by 5, that means there's got to be 12, because 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, this makes 60. They can visually see 60 divided into 5 boxes. Now they know, without in a way doing the mechanical math, that Jasmine's got 12 apples, that Susan's got 48 apples, and together that makes 60. They can also now, if you want them to look exactly what's the question asking, that's actually saying how many more apples does Susan have compared to Jasmine? And visually, it's this. This is how many more, which is 36, right? So another tool that I use with my kids a lot is sketching and visualizing. You can see, I'm hopefully, what I want to impress upon you in the limited time that I have is that as simple as these tools are, if you get kids using them over and over, and they won't necessarily, it's very rare that you'll just tell them they'll instantly start using it. You have to remind them, but after a while, they become good with these tools. Let me see if I can just do one more example of a visualization. Here it says Nahasi rides his bicycle Monday through Friday, as shown below. And what was the average number of miles he rode per day? So he rode 2 miles on Monday and 7 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 7 on Thursday, and 8 on Friday. Now, there's a mechanical way to get an average of things, like to find his average. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start with a visual. And if you see those squares, I'll actually have them take coins or something like that and lay it out just as you see. And then what I'll tell the students to do is, okay, you can't, you're going to have 5 columns, but I want you to make them all the same height. There's 5 columns that make them all the same height. And so it turns into that, right? You don't have any more coins or squares than you did before, but you've just adjusted them. And that is the average. This fellow, Nahasi, averaged 5 miles a day. This gives them a visual concept of what average is. Instead of just saying, add up all the numbers, divide them by how many there are, and that's your average. That's good, and they do need to know how to do that. But they get to see that what's interesting, and something that I'll point out to the students, is that Nahasi never actually rode 5 miles on a given day. His average is 5, but he actually never rode 5. So they get to see that average is really sort of this made up idea of, if the numbers could be made the same, what would it be? That's what average is sort of conceptually. Conceptually, average is, what would it be if I could level it all out? And you can see it physically. So these are some training tools that I'm giving to the tutors, is to get them good at these kinds of skills. I'm going to see how we're doing on time. I'm running a little.
The Unicorn app
I'm not
is
going
a
to show
global.
this.
The Unicorn app is a
All right, let me just see if I can pop out of that. Yeah, I think, Dr. Lindley, I have more that I could show, but I'm thinking it's better with time, maybe to open it up for comments. What do you think?
Yeah, that would be good. And there have been several comments already on here. And please, on your screen just now, the one thing that's really important is for the attendees and the schools they represent to know how to get a hold of you. And as I said to both Ron and Dave early on, you know, this is a business for them, and they certainly would be willing to work with any of your schools as far as training students to be tutors. And that's why we always like to have their addresses there, and you can directly contact them. And so I wanted you to know that. So let me see. So if you would like, Ron, if you want to delete your screen,
Yeah.
we can see. So if somebody has a specific question, one of the things that we appreciate in questions is that they're very short, and that you don't need to give us a lot of background as to what you do and so forth. But please raise your hand if you have a question. We'll try to do these in the order that we see raised hands. You should pop up. And a question for either Ron or Dave. Here's Firuz. You have a question, Firuz. Turn your mic on. There you go.
Thank you. That was quite an informative session, Dr. Ron. Recently, I was in Saudi Arabia in Dubai, and one of the buzzwords of the conference was ChatGPT and AI.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, and you also drew some parallels with AI. My question is about future, navigating the future of classrooms. How further do you expect AI to get integrated into the school curricula? And what if our students are going to interact with AI as part of the peer tutoring? Can we just leave them both interacting? And will we need a human involvement to monitor this kind of unusual peer tutoring, right, when a human student is going to interact with an AI? And who is going to take charge of this, AI or the student? Thank you.
Good. I'm going to answer and then I'll let Dave do it too. But I'm going to first preface it by saying what I'm going to tell you is purely opinion. Okay. I'm not up here on a pedestal telling you what's right. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say, I'm going to give it to you purely from my opinion. But at least I can say as an educator of many decades, there is I think there's a correct way to use AI and technology and an incorrect way. And you can get people on both sides being extreme. Like people can be extreme, like no technology, all technology is bad. And I think that's kind of silly. But this idea of there is a push to sort of, in many things and not just teaching, to sort of take people out of the equation almost. And I think that is very destructive and not the right way to go. There is no, like, what I see is teaching is about a human connection. This is my opinion. Teaching is about a human life heartbeat connection. You know, I mean, I'm going to be silly, but if you and I were talking and I said, you know what, I'm going to have my bot go to a movie and have dinner over the weekend, and you're going to have your bot, and let's see who has more fun. And we just sit in our rooms all day, but we don't go to the movies. Do you follow what I'm saying? It becomes a bit silly. That's kind of a terrible analogy, but my point is, in my mind, teaching is what makes it beautiful. And, you know, the great coaches of the world, like, I don't think you can make a championship basketball team with just R2D2. You know, I mean, you're just sitting there spewing off response. The greatest leaders of our day are great humans, great communicators, great interactors, people who you think that made big changes in the world. They're great communicators. They can connect with people. They can inspire. There's no replacement of that. So what I think is a healthy balance of making teaching human and using the tools to assist the human connection. That's what we want to do. So, for example, with AI, if I'm tutoring you or you're tutoring me, and then I have problems on X, well, maybe you can use AI and say, this age, this thing, this, and it can pop up with a good resource. Well, by all means, yes, I think absolutely. It can make your job a whole lot easier. But the job is to assist the human interaction in my mind. So I'm totally against this idea of driverless peer tutoring. I would be adamantly against, if you will. I'm not against people doing individualized studying on their own. Don't get me wrong. But you get the point. And I don't know if, sorry, I went on a whole roll because I guess I feel emotional about it. But Dave, did you want to add or subtract to that?
Just very briefly, I've seen some very successful applications of AI when it is used to support teachers. That's the context in which I've seen it be extremely successful, because it helps teachers better individualize and personalize the instruction, because they know exactly what students need. AI doesn't solve all the problems of what students need by a long shot, but it can help guide teachers and support them as they teach. And I think the same thing can be true in peer tutoring. Peer tutoring is a tremendous way to help teachers be most effective and spend their very valuable time in what they can most effectively do. And AI can also support peer tutoring by helping peer tutors understand what a student particularly needs help with. But as powerful as I have seen it be, it's been in the context of support, not use independently of human guidance.
Great, thank you. There's a question on the chat room, and we'll just take this one and have to be short. It says, can I start this method with my students as a kindergarten teacher? I think I heard the answer to that, but do you want to just emphasize that again? Can I start these methods as a kindergarten teacher?
Yeah, so I would say I would not put them on the on our app, but absolutely you can, and I would be happy to help you and give you ideas for how to implement that, because kids love helping each other. So I would be happy to support you and come up with ideas, or even meet with you separately to support you in that. I wouldn't. I would absolutely agree that could be done.
Yeah, also think about your second and third grade teachers helping your kindergarten kids.
Yeah.
Yes. Great. I don't see any other hands raised. The hour is upon us now, and I don't see other hands raised with the question. I think we'll conclude. Ron, Dave, did you have any concluding statements that you would like to make?
I'll leave it to Ron.
I don't, but if you feel free to reach out to me. I love to work with teachers, support teachers, and that's it. Thank you very much. I just appreciate being here with all of you.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Jake, you have some words for us.
Yeah, just a few different things. As soon as Dr. Ray is completed with his words of wisdom, I'm going to put in the chat the survey. And in order to get the certificate, you have to fill out that survey. I'll post it on Facebook for those that are attending by Facebook, and then also post it in the chat for those that are attending by Zoom. And just appreciate everyone who's been able to participate and follow along as we're learning more about tutoring, the power of tutoring. And I'd encourage you to reach out to our presenters. And I'd also encourage you to get onto our website, check out the services that we have to provide, and reach out to us if there's any way that we can help and support you and support your students on their path of learning. Thank you, Dr. Ray. Good.
I have to make an admission here, and perhaps I've shared this with you before. When my undergraduate major was to be an English teacher of English, and I knew it all. I mean, I was ready to just wax eloquently and teach what I knew to my students. So I remember getting into the grammar lessons, which we unfortunately don't teach grammar as much as we used to, but I remember getting into the grammar lessons, and all of a sudden I ran across something in the lesson that I was supposed to instruct the students, and it was a grammar lesson on the subjunctive case. Don't worry about the definition. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know this. And you know what? I had to learn it before I could even present it to the students. And it reminds me, and I wrote it down, Marwa wrote a comment. Marwa's been a regular responder. And she said, if you want to learn something very well, teach it. And so that's really the essence of what I think we've heard today, is we're helping students to be teachers. And so I commend you, and I leave you with a statement that was made by Marissa Meyer. And she said this: I always did something I was not ready to do. I think that's how you grow. When there's a moment of, wow, I'm not really sure I can do this, and you push through it anyway, that's when you learn it yourself. And so if you've got students who can help at any level, they can help each other. And I love the idea of pairing students up and having them talk about any situation together or teach each other, and the teacher can roam around and help. So that's really where I think the emphasis of the lesson, the excitement of what we've heard today can happen. So again, thank you all for being here. If your students are at least a little bit afraid, help them understand and have the courage to teach what they know or to tutor what they know. And then as they grow, all of the class will grow. So thank you all very much. It's been a great workshop today, and we appreciate it. And I think Dr. Jake will post the survey on the website. So it looks like we had over 200, almost 200 people in the
I posted it in the chat, and everyone should be able to see that now. Please get in there and fill that out. By posting your name in the chat does not mean that we have taken your attendance. So you need to fill it out on the link that has been posted.
Great. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you again, Ron and Dave, for a wonderful presentation, and excited to work with you.
And I think, Dr. Ray, I think we have some time as we're waiting for people to fill out that survey. If people want to raise their hand or post any question in the chat about anything, either about tutoring, about Array Global, about education in general. And Miss Samad Hassan has posted, how can I get the material? When we send out the certificates, we will send out the PowerPoints that Mr. Ron and Mr. Dave have presented with us today. So yeah, just wait until you get that email, and then also make sure that people are checking their spam folders. Sometimes some of the emails go into spam. That's where we found some of the certificates have gone in the past. So make sure that you're checking those. Any questions now?
Looks like we have none, so I think that's,
Well, I think we need to wait just a few minutes as people are
it's-
filling out the.
it's sure indicative of the quality of the presentation today and the explanations which were given.
It looks like Feroz has raised his hand again. Feroz, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity as nobody is asking a question. You know, I come from a humble Central Asian background, and this is pretty much culturally conservative landscape where students are less willing to challenge themselves and take ownership of their learnings and studies. If you were to teach in that kind of circumstance, how would you cope with that situation when your students are culturally, you know, conservative and less willing to be a leader? Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, great question. And, you know, that's the, first of all, part of the art of being a teacher, right? You got to meet every kid where they are. But I mean, the first simple thing is, and I'm not going to say anything profound here, is that sort of scaffolding or that step-by-step thing, giving him some little thing to do. Go have them help somebody else with something very simple, or have them come up with an idea. For example, like some kids, I'll give you an example, don't initiate very much. They want to be told and like, you know, okay. So you might say, what's an idea for a place we could go today? Or what's an idea for something we can draw on the board? Something very simple, and then applaud that very genuinely. Great. And then, you know, and then they start to, you know, you start boosting that confidence. I'm going to give a real life example with writers that might help give you some ideas. Like sometimes when I would be teaching writing, and I think Dr. Lindley might love this because from his English background, you get kids who sit for 20 minutes and can hardly even get out a sentence. Yeah, it's very painful. You know, they just won't write. They sit there, they, you know, half an hour later, they got maybe 2 sentences, you know, they just cannot write. So one thing that I would do sometimes, and to sort of break this, and it might kind of connect with saying, I think it will, is let's say you're the student over there, and I would just start talking about something they like, because you want to connect. You know, they like basketball, you know, they like cooking, whatever it is. So if it's basketball, tell me, so you went to that game yesterday, how did it go, and start telling about it. And then you have a conversation and they go, oh, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I have my laptop there, right? Tell me who's the best team, you know, and I'm sort of, without the kid knowing it, I'm putting a topic for an essay. Who's the best team? Blah, 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 and this team and blah, blah, what, really, why is that? Blah, blah, blah. And I just literally I'm like the secretary who takes dictation. And then I write exactly what they say. Well, by the end of it, that's our start of an essay. Look what you did. It's an incremental step. Now, they didn't really type it, they didn't do that, but they said something and we recorded it. And they see, oh, hey, guess what? I can initiate and say something, and I can see, because they start, you know, in other words, they realize that writing is just a form of communication. Anyway, you encourage, you find ways, is what I'm trying to say, to validate and these things on an incremental level. I think almost anybody natively, nobody wants to be a slave, if you know what I'm saying, to make it kind of dramatic. Everybody wants to be their own master. Everybody wants to initiate. So you usually have some deep down willingness there, you know what I mean? Usually inside. And if you want to tap into that, that's my, you know, my feeling.
I'll just jump onto that a little bit with, you know, what makes people feel their own power and ability is when they help others. So if you take children that maybe they're not comfortable with expressing themselves or taking control in a certain kind of situation with peers, but if you put them with a younger child that they can help and they experience being able to help that person, that helps them to realize that they do have power and they have influence. And it's as Ron says, it's a small step in the direction of them not taking more responsibility by helping another student take more responsibility. And I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with that cultural situation, but I would imagine that they would feel quite comfortable working with a younger child helping them.
Another question we had, actually, they're kind of related. Alexander Tate and Michael asked a similar question about using this peer tutoring approach for teaching English as a foreign language, specifically maybe at the elementary level in the primary grades. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I'm actually doing a pilot on that right now. Just this morning, I worked with a child in Ukraine, and I'm doing English conversation, and the whole idea is what we're planning to do is because we're all about training tutors, and that's my I mean, I've done a lot of teaching, but I've also done a lot of tutoring, and so we can get that one-on-one as much as we can and making the kids into tutors. So yes, what we're doing is we're going to train maybe college students, high school students, and others on how to, in simple steps, on how to be a tutor, and then how to give conversation class. So again, I think it's very effective because when you're talking with somebody or that's your age, it can work super well. So yeah, that can be incredibly effective. I hope that, let me know. Hopefully that answered your question, but it certainly can be done, and we're working on it actually.
I think so. I think that was good. We have two people with their hands raised. Dr. Ray, do we have a few more minutes?
I think so. Hanya, I think you were here first
Yes.
with your
So,
hand
Anya,
raised.
you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you for the seminar and all. Well, I totally agree with everything you guys said today, but I find it a bit challenging when it comes to actually having peer tutoring with the same grade together, because a lot of times there will be gaps in knowledge that, having two people working on a problem, they wouldn't independently or individually realize that they have gaps in learning. Like, for example, we have a lot of students who would have study group or whatnot, and you would realize when they take their tests separately, if they realize they do not understand the topic as well as they would believe that they do. I believe in peer tutoring. I believe it's good for character building and whatnot, but maybe for a higher level to our lower level, like a younger brother sister kind of situation, maybe that would work better in that sense. I don't know. I feel
I can understand that. You can't
tricky to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, there's valid points there. In other words, you can't have completely the blind leading the blind, 100%. And you do want to train the tutors well, who are, you want to help train them and guide them. I will say, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, for example, if you're going to have a peer tutor teach chemistry who knows nothing about chemistry at all, well, that's certainly not going to work. So they certainly have to have enough knowledge. But I will say, when I've done it as a teacher, over time, they get better and better. If and if you're there as the teacher to sort of also oversee it, and you're going to see their test results, well, then you can help guide it. But if I've always found that it pushes the scores higher than they would have been without it. Let's put it that way.
That's good. It looks like we have another question from Miss Marwa.
Miss Marwa.
You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes. Hi, doctor. How you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Everything's okay. Thanks a million for the wonderful session. As usual, I was just wondering about, I'm just imagining if I'm in a class having multi-level students, high achievers and low achievers. I'm trying to apply the strategies and techniques of peer tutoring we have been discussing throughout the session. So maybe I can utilize the high-level learners to be tutors and leaders in the first place, maybe. Then what if my class or my students are all high-level learners? They are all high achievers, and we are in the age of bullying, and they are being jealous and they are having psychological problems. So is there any criteria or some framework to follow when I'm dealing or applying these techniques? I don't want them to get into some psychological problems, bullying, and some people don't, or some students don't like to have the session dominated by certain specific students who are high achievers, for example. So what if they are the same level how to manage the clothing? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. And what you're saying is absolutely true. We don't want that to happen. On the other end, of course, we wouldn't want the solution to be just nobody talk to anybody, because that would be equally damaging. So you have to use judgment. And of course, some students, there has to be guidelines and rules. And if kids don't, and you have to train them. Part of the tutor training is sort of the etiquette, the manners, the treating with dignity, all those kinds of rules, not just, I was giving some teaching tools, but you have to train them in that. You have to have agreements. It has to be a privilege. In other words, they're not going to get the privilege of doing that if they can't. I do think, again, that it also, on the other hand, offers an opportunity to build those soft skills and that good social emotional skills if done right, and with a willing child, you can work the kinks out of that. But I think that just the keys is to train them and then of course have rules and guidelines.
Great. Well, thank you again, everybody. I think we've kind of exhausted our time limits. And so thank you, everybody, for participating today. And again, thank you especially to Ron and Dave for their excellent presentation today. So hope to see you on April 15th. And we're going to be having a presentation on staff development. Thank you so much.
Thank you.